Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Stanley Okoro. I'm the president of ANPA Foundation. Welcome to the 27th edition of the ANPA Financial Webinar Series. Yes, 27th edition since 2020. This webinar is co-sponsored both by ANPA and ANPA Foundation. Today, we are going to explore explore financial strategies for the 21st century. I'm so excited for today's webinar because today we're going to be hearing from one of our own, from a doctor to doctors. So 2 doctors talking about financial strategies for doctors. This is very exciting. So we have never had doctors who are financial experts. So this is new. This is great. Everything that we've been talking about the last 4 years, we're kind of putting it together today. But before we kind of jump into this, let's talk about ANPA a little bit, okay? I don't know if there are any ANPA executives on here yet. Let me check. So I want to maintain all the protocols. We'll join later. But as you can tell, ANPA is a 501c nonprofit organization incorporated in 1995. We represent both doctors, dentists, and allied health professionals. Let's see. ANPA Foundation is also a 501c charitable foundation incorporated in 2022. Our main purposes are, one, to raise funds and create financial independence for ANPA via philanthropy, estate planning, and business investments. Our second goal was to educate ANPA members about investments, estate planning, multi-generational wealth, which we'll be talking about today, legacy, and again, philanthropy. For those who are not members of ANPA, ANPA has a lot of benefit for its members, including CME, which we're coming up. We have our annual conventions coming up in next month in June. We have leadership opportunities, there's practice referrals, great networking events. We support each other in times of need and joy. We do have a lot of medical missions and opportunities for volunteerism. And if you are trying to connect with ANPA, these are the different ways you can connect with ANPA. The ANPA website is anpa.org. I don't try and see if there's anybody I need to recognize here. Okay, well, again, this webinar is sponsored by ANPA and ANPA Foundation. We do have a quarterly webinar. We had one last month. This is our first webinar for the new quarter. The webinar always starts at 12 noon for 1 hour. This is an intentional aggregation of subject matter experts. We believe this is the highest and the best use of your time. It is free to ANPA members. All of the previous webinars are available in public at the ANPA YouTube page at ANPA National. You can go there and watch any topic that you choose to learn about. We already have it done. The materials presented at all ANPA webinar is for general education and informational purpose only, and it's solely the opinion of the presenter. No webinar is intended to provide personalized financial or legal advice. It is left to the discretion and judgment, your judgment, and it's the sole responsibility of each attendee to determine what is necessary for his or her own practice. Neither the speakers or ANPA can be held responsible for the materials, opinion, or any inadvertent error or omission in the preparation and presentation of the material. Further, nothing in the material should be construed as an endorsement by ANPA. Today, we have 2 physicians and a CPA. The 2 doctors are going to talk to other doctors about financial strategy. First, I'm going to introduce Dr. Eke. Dr. Eke is a highly respected infectious disease specialist and an assistant professor of medicine at the University of Maryland Medical Center. She is board certified in infectious disease and internal medicine. She is also a licensed financial professional who is very passionate about financial literacy. So she's going to be talking to us about that today. Dr. Eke, are you ready to take it on?
Yes, I believe I am. Thank you so much, Dr. Kerr. I appreciate the introduction and the opportunity. And thank you, everybody, for attending today. So I'm just going to get started so we don't waste any time. I would start today by talking about the tale of two prestigious families. So historically, these are the wealthiest American families of the 19th century, the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts. And I don't know if you've heard about them, but the names are kind of common names that everybody has heard, hopefully. So the Rockefeller pioneer is John D. Rockefeller. He founded Standard Oil, and that was his source of wealth. Became the first American billionaire in 1916. And then for the Vanderbilts, their pioneer was called Cornelius Vanderbilt. His own wealth was built from railroad shipping in New York. And he's the one that actually provided initial fund for Vanderbilt University in Tennessee. But the way these two families ended up is different. And that's what we want to focus on today. So for the Vanderbilts, within 30 years, after he passed away, none of them was a millionaire anymore. All the money was gone already, and when they had a reunion in 1973, when 120 members of his family gathered together at Vanderbilt University, none of them was a millionaire. And, all that money and all that legacy was not to be heard of, literally anymore, except for the legacy that he, provided the funding for Vanderbilt University. But Rockefeller, on the other hand, over centuries and over at least that century, over 100 years, that money and that wealth and that fortune has remained in the family. And, the interesting part of it is that majority of it was actually given away, to philanthropy and to global missions and things like that. And the family, over 200 members of that family have remained, in that family fortune. So how did they maintain that wealth over the century? So the question is, what did the Rockefellers do differently? Because till today, from birth, every Rockefeller is, plugged into this family wealth system, and it grows on for them and goes through generations. And also, for me as an infectious disease physician, my passion really about this family is what they have done, in infectious diseases. So hookworm eradication in the United States, they pioneered it. Yellow fever vaccine, they pioneered it. And then other public health strides that they have made. So kind of going on to the next slide, people, again, have tried to see how they can emulate what this family has done, not just, in maintaining their wealth, but also to making that wealth available to other people and to change the world, literally. So right now, even like over 85% of Fortune 500 Fortune 500 CEOs are using the same strategy. But the question for us today, and what I and my colleagues are trying to present to you today, is that same strategy that the Rockefellers have used is available and accessible to each and every one of us today. And we don't have to be millionaires or billionaires to accomplish the same result. So how do we do that? That's really kind of what we're trying to present today. Now, again, right from when we were children, I'm sure we all had goals and dreams. And some of us may have changed those goals and dreams along the line, but the question, again, to the very core of who we are is, who are we and what do we want to accomplish and what are we here for? What is our dream? Is it just something that is, just for our family, for our community, or is it something that extends beyond ourselves? And just like John D. Rockefeller, do we want to change the world? So that's, again, a personal question that, would have to ask. And again, biblically, most of us here are from Nigeria, from African ancestry. And in our culture, usually it's like the children will take care of the parents and, just like we are, and I'm sure most of us here are probably taking care of our parents, right? But we noticed that here in America, especially for the wealthy Americans, you notice a trend that even our children, some of them going to private schools and enjoying some of the things in life that would like to enjoy, those things have already been paid for by other generations before them. So if, again, the Bible says a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. So again, this is an opportunity for us to kind of change our mindset and the way we've been thinking and doing things, and possibly consider, a different path if we're not doing that already. So my mission really for this talk and from what I do in this financial literacy journey is to educate people on how to protect themselves and their families, how to build tax-free wealth, how you can create your own family bank for investments, for college, for other things you're passionate about, for those goals and dreams that you may have, and also how to plan for retirement and, retirement in a way that is, with dignity. So with all that, there's four main bases, or there are four main bases that I'd like us to cover to accomplish these goals. Now, the first one is the one of death, right? Everybody is going to die one day. The question is, when is that going to happen? And we don't necessarily have control of that. I mean, some people can maybe control that by maybe choosing a different, a lifestyle that may lead to death. But for the most of us, people are not really in control of that. And I'm sure each of us knows somebody who maybe passed away too soon, or who, because they passed away, their family was thrown into, trouble, or maybe having to depend on GoFundMe or charity or something like that to succeed. And as doctors, especially, and healthcare professionals, this is something we don't want to happen to us or the people that we care about. The second question is, what if somebody were to get sick or injured or need prolonged medical care or rehab? How will you pay? Again, being in the medical profession, we see this every day. So it doesn't have to be when somebody's old, when somebody, it can happen even, to younger people that are younger than us, and we've seen that also happen. What about retirement? What is our plan for that? And also, how do we plan? Because it's the first three questions are really the foundational ones, right? The things that pertain to us, to make sure that we take care of ourselves primarily. And then the last question, again, is about that dream that we have, or that goal, that purpose that we want to accomplish. How do we want to accomplish that? The first thing I would like to address here is something called long-term care. And I'm very, very passionate about this, because even I myself did not really think about this or know about this until maybe last year, when I listened to a presentation like this. And that's a fact, for me, at least personally. And what is long-term care? This is the care that people need. You can get it at home, or in an assisted living facility, or in a nursing home, when somebody is unable to take care of maybe two or more of the activities of daily living. So things like bathing, feeding, transferring, some of those things that you need to get yourself up in a day. If somebody's not able to take care of those things anymore, then you may need long-term care. So you need assistance of somebody to help you accomplish those things. And the thing is that by the time somebody turns age 65, the chance that they will need long-term care is 70%. So this is very, very, very common. And the thing is that we don't necessarily have to wait till we're 65, right? So being in the hospital setting, as an ID person, I've seen, young people, young adults that have something as simple as a sinusitis that eventually becomes a brain abscess. And then they come in, they're paralyzed, they have to need like long rehab and all that stuff. But I'm sure you all must have seen people in that form. And what happens to the family? How is the family going to pay for that? And also, even at retirement, right? Let's say somebody retires and needs long-term care. 1 year in the nursing home costs about approximately $100,000. So somebody's retirement savings can be literally depleted if they need long-term care and if they don't have long-term care insurance. So, but the question is, how are you going to pay for it? So we're going to discuss some of those strategies as we go on in this talk today. And again, just to buttress the fact that a lot of people have not discussed long-term care with their financial professionals, only 18% of people have done that by this survey. And again, do not confuse long-term care with long-term disability. They are two different things. So long-term disability will pay 60% of your income, and most long-term disabilities will stop paying when you're 65. And that is actually when you need long-term care the most. So you shouldn't confuse both. It's very important to distinguish the difference between both of those. Now, yeah, so this is showing a slide about how money grows. And most of us, I'm sure, are familiar with this, but just to kind of, again, go through it. So on the left side, we have the fixed one, which is the bank that stays fixed. And you know that the bank is not a place to put your money to hedge inflation, because if you account for the inflation rates of today, that graph is actually going to be negative, right? And then the middle one is a variable one, which is the stock markets, which you can see the volatility that is associated with it. So if you go to the highest point of it and then go to the lowest points, as we see on this graph, so all the money that goes from that top to the bottom that you lose, you're not going to get it back again. It's not going to compound for you again. And you know that for you to go from the lowest part again up to the highest point, you may have to like have double returns on that, and that doesn't happen often. So how do you how do you make sure that money you put in that vehicle is protected for you? Now, the last part of the one on the right side is the index strategy, which is very important. I think that is actually the focus of our presentation today, is to kind of explain this concept to you, that you can actually put your money in a vehicle that grows and tracks the stock market, but your money is not invested in the stock market, but the growth of it tracks the stock market. And whenever there is a downturn in the stock market, whenever there's a negative downturn, what happens is that your money is kind of protected, is kind of locked up in that. So all the money, your principal and the money you've gained along the line is kind of protected and locked up at a guaranteed floor. So that guaranteed floor could be 0% or it could be 0.75, depending on the company where you have the money in. And it's kind of locked up for you until the stock market recovers and grows again, then your money grows again. So it's just like the way grace works, right? Somebody, if there's situations going around like causing shakiness, it kind of holds it secure there until that tide passes over, and then you continue to grow. So that's the index strategy. And we're going to be talking about that more as we go along. Now, this slide, it's looking at, a 20-year look back overview of what the stock market has done. So we have the S&P 500, which most of us should be familiar with, which is a major index that measures the US economy. So we're looking at what's happened over the last 20 years. So from 2004 to 2023, you can see some of the years with the growth and with, the interest rates or the returns that it has made over time. So look at 2008, cycled there. It's the year that, we had almost like 40% loss, right? 40% negative downturn in the stock market. And what happens is that if somebody were going to retire in that year, let's say somebody had $1 million at that point, so they go down to 600,000, right? And then depending on what each person has, either somebody would have to go back to work, or somebody would have to, just hopefully somebody doesn't have a heart attack just from that, happening. But if you look at the right side is the index strategy we're talking about. What happens on the right side is that your money grows alongside the stock market. And anytime the stock market gets, a positive growth, you get that same positive growth, but you have a cap. The cap is 13% for this illustration. But each of those years when there is a negative downturn, like anytime it goes below zero, you actually have a positive credit of 0.75. Some companies will give you 0.00, so 0%, right? So what happens at the end of the day is that you don't lose any money on that side. And at the end of the 20 years, you end up with 8.15%, and compare it to the other numbers here. So you can see that even though you're not getting all the high numbers, all the high percentages, as you see on the other side, you have a cap of 13%. The fact that you don't lose any money at all makes a huge difference. So this is why it's important, where you put your money, you have to consider, because making money, not losing money is also as important as making money. And that is why Warren Buffett says that the first rule about investment is, first of all, not to lose money. The second rule is not to forget the first rule. So it's as important not to lose money as it is to make money. The next slide. So again, this is another thing that I'd like to discuss, because when we look at the reports from the stock market, they would say maybe S&P 500 had an average rate of return of 10%, but they don't account for each of those years when there was a negative downturn. So the average rate of return is never really equal to the actual rate of return if there was a negative rate. The only time the average is equal to the actual is when you have an index strategy, because you never lose money. So for this illustration here, so let's say somebody has $1,000 investments, and the first year they had a negative 50. So they go down to 500, and the next year they have a positive 50. So they go up to 750. So you look at the average rate of return is 0. So you'd expect that you've not lost anything, but that's not true, right? You've lost 25%. So the actual rate of return here is minus 25, even though the average rate is 0. So it's important to take these numbers into consideration when you look at your numbers, or when you look at your investment report. Now, talking about the power of zero. So this is an illustration again to show what an index strategy does versus the regular stock market or 401k, IRA, 403b, strategy. Now, most of us, depending on where we work, all have maybe a 401k or 403b or IRA or something. And some of these things are the qualified retirement plans that we have to kind of use because that's what our employers offer us, and all of us use it by default. But if you look at these numbers, right? So for instance, again, this is like a 23-year look back, and you look at what S&P 500 does and how a 250,000 investment does over time. Now, for each of those years, you have a negative number, right? So minus 10, minus 13, minus 23, see how much is being lost. Now go down to 2008, you see a minus 38%. So that's like 114,000 that is lost from that account. Now, if you go all the way down, you see that the person ends up with about 754,000. And now, remember, you have to pay taxes, right? Because any money in your 401k, you didn't pay tax. It grows tax deferred for you, which is good. But at the end of the day, you have to pay taxes on it. So you end up with $500,000. But on the right side, using the index strategy we talked about, what happens on the right side is that the same amount of money goes through the years. Now we have a cap. So the cap that is being used here is 15%. So the growth doesn't, so the return on your money for each of those years is not more than 15%, right? But look at those years where there was a negative return. All those years you have zero. So instead of going negative something, your money you're given zero. So what happens is that you never lose money, right? So at the end of the time, you end up with 1.3 million. Now, the beautiful thing about this strategy is that you're not going to pay taxes on a dime of this money if you know what you're doing, if you structure it properly, and if you use the right provision for it. Now, people will say, how is this possible? Does this make sense? So this is the power of zero, how you can arrive at paying zero in taxes. And next slide, please. When you think about this, there's actually an IRS code that makes this provision. And this is what is used for this policy or for this account for you to, when you have a cash value insurance policy in this form, all the cash that is accumulated, you can have access to that cash totally tax-free. And that is the way the Rockefellers have built their wealth. And that was the way they were able to pass that generational wealth from one generation to the next. And that is the way rich people in America, how the wealthy have built their wealth over time. And that is the opportunity we're bringing to you today to educate you that you can actually achieve the same thing, not just for yourself, but for your children, for your children's children. And you can also use the same way, the same way you have beneficiaries, you can also allocate these funds if you want, to your mission or to other purposes or other things you want to accomplish. Now, introducing what we call IUL. I don't know if you've heard about it, but so what we're talking about today, we talked about an index strategy, right? So this index strategy is used in this kind of insurance called an index universal life insurance. And this is an upgraded version to other undesirable features of other types of permanent life insurance that exist. So what does this IUL do? What IUL does is that if you have that one premium, that one policy gives you all these benefits. So you have the cash accumulation that you can use for investments and retirement. It also provides you long-term care insurance. So we talked about long-term care. That is how important, how necessary that is. If you want to purchase long-term care on your own or by on itself or by itself, it's actually expensive, right? And sometimes you can't even pay for more than 5 years at a time because of how expensive it is. But with this IUL policy, all that is inclusive and included in the policy. Now, there's something very important about it as well. There's something called critical illness income replacement. I don't know if you've had any family member, or anybody at all, friend or close person to you that was diagnosed with maybe something like a cancer or stroke or some of these illnesses that prevents people from going back to work right away. I have a personal experience. My sister had something similar to that. And when somebody has that kind of critical illness, they're not making any income. So this policy can replace their income at that point in time to help that family. Because again, if that person was the main breadwinner of the family could literally just, not be able to survive at that period of time. And again, there's also something called terminal illness payout. So if somebody were to be terminally ill, this policy would also pay payouts at that point. So with this one policy, somebody's covered on all these things. Now, again, in medicine and even in life, we never say one plan fits all, right? But this is as close to it as you get, because number one, you have the death benefit protection that provides tax-free benefits to the family. There's the growth potential that the money grows, through excess index credits, and you get that money tax-free. Now, there's a downside protection that you never lose money, and also the living benefits that we talked about. Now, how can we make this kind of more practical to us, right? So all of us, again, on the left side is the bucket that has, 401k, pension plan, traditional IRA. This is what we all have by default from our work. Now, in the middle part is for the more, savvy investor, more experienced investors, people that invest in stock market or mutual funds or real estate and all those things, right? So the middle bucket is taxed at, capital gains tax rate, which is better than income tax rate. Then on the right side is the tax-free bucket, which is where the IUL and other insurance, similar insurance buckets kind of fall into that particular bucket. And that bucket is tax-free. But the thing is that is often overlooked. But how can we apply this, for us as physicians or as professionals? Next slide, please. So if you had all your money, let's say somebody had a 300,000 retirement income and they had all that money in the 401k bucket. What happens is that their effective tax rate, when they combine your federal and state income taxes that you pay, is about 25%, just approximately, right? And so that income tax rate gives you you pay a tax of $75,000, they end up with 224. But if that person were to diversify, next slide, please. If you were to diversify and put a third in each of these buckets, so you end up literally saving, about almost 60% in taxes, right? Because you're going from 25% to 9% effective tax rate at that point in time, because you've diversified your portfolio to include some of it, to put a third of that 300,000 into the bucket where you don't pay any taxes and into the pocket where you pay less taxes. And next one, please. And again, if you, trying to maximize the opportunity of using the tax-free bucket again, and you put like half of that income there and put a quarter into the other ones, again, you've gone from 25% to 4%. So that's like, 80% reduction, your tax rates, what you've paid. So that's a way that, we can think outside the box of how to move our money around to get the best out of it for us. And then going on also, if you look at the next slide where we have these 8 characteristics listed, right? So tax-free distribution, growth potential, no risk of loss, easy access, principal protection, chronic critical, terminal illness, income replacement, wealth transfer, probate avoidance. Which of these features would you like to have in your account, right? So the last two are also very important because you want to avoid probate. You want your money that you've made to go to your beneficiaries without the stress of the government or anybody weighing in on you. Also, you want this money is free from creditors or lawsuits. So this is like your own private money. So which of these would you like to have in your accounts? If you ask me, I'll probably say that I want, I'd like to have all of them. So going to the next slide. If you look at A, B, C, D, and E, so these are different accounts. So let's say, we look at each of them and see all these 8 characteristics, which one of these accounts has the most of them. So E, you can go to the next slide, please. E has, the IUL, which is what we've talked about, right? So it has all of them. But look at B, which is 401k and IRA. So if you look at that the second column, the only thing it has is cash accumulation. While the 401k and all that is great, it's tax deferred. But when you look at it and you think about it, my biggest problem with it is that, all that money you are accumulating as your retirement next egg, God forbid something happens to the stock market when somebody's about to retire, there is no insurance on that money. It could literally just deplete it just like that, right? So there's no backup, there's no support on that money. It's just, yes, it's a good hedge against inflation. It grows and accumulates, but other than that, there's nothing else really. Now, but you look at the IUL, have all these advantages. And then the other one, the FIA, is fixed index annuity. So that one is also a good plan. What happens in that is it's also an index account. You can, if you have like an old 401k or an old, retirement income somewhere, you could actually roll it over to this fixed index annuity such that it's indexed. Again, it grows and tracks the stock market in its growth, and then it's protected. You don't lose money. So that same index strategy applies to it. So that's another strategy you can use to at least secure your old retirement income that you've already accumulated over time. And the question for you today is, so if you qualify, because not everybody qualifies for these, right? Because IUL, and you have to, you have to put in an application, and then, you have to see if you qualify. But if you were to qualify for this, what would prevent you really from having these accounts? Because that's the question today. Next slide, please. And again, to summarize what the IUL does, so on the left side is the protection it gives you. So the life insurance and the living benefits, right? Then on the right side is the savings. So the fact that your money grows tax deferred, the fact that you get that money tax advantaged, you don't pay any taxes on it. The fact that it's creditor protected, the fact that you have easy access. So if you wanted to withdraw money, you just literally get a check, you checked it back into your account and you have access to that money. And a lot of people, the way they use this is that they use it as your family bank. You can, instead of taking loans from the bank, you fund this account really well for yourself. Then you can take loans from it to do your projects, to do your real estate investments and other investments you're trying to do. So this provides you a very strong background or backup and strong source for you and your family on how to manage your income and build that multi-generational wealth that we're talking about. And next slide, please. So kind of going on, so kind of rounding up here, there's a lot of insurance types, right? Term insurance, most of us, I'm sure, have some form of life insurance from our jobs. Most of those insurances are term insurance. And again, because we're all praying to live long, right? Most of us are probably going to outlive those insurances, and then it means nothing. And again, what if you change jobs, right? You're not going to carry that term insurance from one job to another. Again, most of these term insurances will never pay. So again, it's fine to have it at a job because you get it from your job, but it's good to have your own personal insurance that is yours, that you're in control of, and you know exactly what you got for yourself. Now, look at the whole life column. Again, there's nothing wrong with having whole life, but the return on those are not really, again, depends on what your goal is, right? So now I think it's up to 4%. This slide is probably old because 2 to 3% might be lower than what it is now, but maybe 4%. But if you want to take fees, if you want to take a loan from yourself, the fees are up to 8%. So that's quite high, right? So again, the living benefits and everything else they get with the IUL, which is the one on the right side, again, far outweighs all the other ones on this left side. Again, if you have a whole life policy, because I used to have one myself before, you can do a 1035 exchange where you can literally, exchange it for an IUL policy at no additional cost. Just the same way you do like a 1031 exchange for real estate. You can do the same thing with from a whole life or even a universal life or variable life to an index universal life. Again, the fees they cost you to take a loan from yourself in your IUL is 0 to 0.25%. So that is literally nothing. So you compare it to what you charge for whole life. So again, this is a strategy that every family, at least at the foundation, needs to have. It's a tool that is very important. We're not saying it's the ultimate or that is the only thing you should have, but at least from the very basal level, this is something that everybody should have, for themselves and their families. Next slide, please. And again, just tell you that I practice what I preach, right? So I have my family's policies here, myself, my husband, and then the ones on the bottom are for my children. You may ask, why do I have this for my children, right? So again, we had like the 529 plans for education, which is well and good, but for the same amount that I'm putting into a 529, I can put it into an IUL for my children, and it grows, similarly. But not just that, I have that legacy, right? So the same Rockefeller thing that I told you about, they do it from birth. So my only regret is that I wish I had known about this when my children were born, then I would have done it from when they were babies. So by now, I would have even accumulated enough for their college and then, for everything else. And by the time they're old, they're as old as I am, they have a lot more financial security than where I am today. So this is what I'm encouraging everybody, to look into this and see where it means value for you or for people that you know. Next slide, please. And other opportunities. So final expense insurances for elderly people, like people that have their parents in the US, who are maybe too old to get other types of insurance. So final expense is like a concierge kind of insurance that helps with funeral planning. They pay, to help the person, for funeral, and they also help to transport. They have like concierge services that help like transportation back home, like when you have to transport the body, back home. And also, of course, talked about rollover to an index IRA, like we talked about earlier. So there are other opportunities that, we can discuss as well. But I think you go to the next slide, I think this is probably where I'm going to hand over to Dr. Uchendu. Dr. Uchendu is a pediatrician and also here in the US, I think it's in Pennsylvania, but he left the clinical medicine. He ran away from clinical medicine. So he's actually a medical director at a biotech company. He's also a licensed financial professional. I've learned a lot from him, actually. So I'm excited to hear him give his own part. Remember that the topic of our talk today is business strategies for the 21st century. So he's going to kind of go into that business part of it. The IUL, like talked about earlier, also leans into what he's going to talk about. So I'm going to have him take over at this time. And thank you very much for listening. We're going to have a session for questions for you to ask the questions that you have. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dr. Uchendu, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Take it from there.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Oh, is that the first thing? Well, that's okay. Leave it there. Leave it. Okay. That's good. Good. My name is Uchendu. Yes, first and last name the same. You can never go wrong. There's an O there, you know. So, yep, physician, 24 years plus. Sometimes I don't even count correctly. I've seen doctors, right? Many of them, right? From back home and here, society thinks that we make a lot of money. They think we are paid too much. You agree with me? And far more than we merit. And some physicians actually think themselves to be making a lot of money. Maybe not in words, perhaps the lifestyle and the choices we make. And also the things we don't know. So it makes people do certain things that are not so smart. Understandably, we peak very early in our career, right? We are at the top of the healthcare system. In the clinic or wherever you work, you're almost at the top. But then you realize it does not equate to knowing a lot in other fields, especially in the financial field. Next slide. Look at that. This is Medscape. If you don't consult Medscape, I don't know the kind of medicine you practice in America, right? We all go there. I pay attention to this. They cycle this, once in 2 years, they just cycle. Doctors' worst, 5 worst financial mistakes. Investing in colleagues' ideas, not carrying enough insurance and all those kind of things. I just wanted to put it out there. Again, next. Why doctors are such bad investors. The Downian doctor, next. Talks about doctors, again, 5 common, this is another one. It wasn't the same thing, right? Next. Okay, so the reason is, why is that so? Robert Kiyosaki says, yeah, we go to school, very smart people, we learn how to work for money. Yep, so we get a job, but then we never learn how to have money work for us. That's why we struggle. That's why doctors, sometimes finish, they say they retired and they didn't retire well. What is your goal? What's your desired legacy? I like building churches. That's what I do in Africa. I work with missionaries. I like building churches. We just started one this year. This is not about giving alms. So whatever that is, without a goal that is higher than you, chasing after money becomes aimless, hopeless pursuit after the wind. Okay? So during COVID-19, I attended this webinar. Emilia Mafo-Saben, she's my, boss. She spoke. Dr. Uzondibe is here. He was one of the organizers. Dr. Chuka, no, they organized. I just, COVID. What else am I going to do? The same place I'm sitting here. Dr. Mfong talked about mental health. Emilia talked about financial profession, 4 streams of income. I said to myself, oh la la, I have just a job. So I reached out to her out of a curiosity. After all, what do I lose? Let me just talk to her. Go ahead, next slide. And so she, presents her own personal story. CPA, federal auditor, auditing big companies, federal, and how much she was making, and then getting into this field, introduced by a hospice nurse. And then how she got actually IUL and all she's done, she showed me a check. Like one of our bosses used to say, show me. She showed me a check, $40,000 that was written to her from her IUL, and she's paying for her child in Stanford or USCF. I was like, oops. By this time, my son was in college or getting to college. And I'll be like 10 years plus here. I don't have that. I don't know it. I said to her, if I find anybody who knows this and never told me, I will not consider this person my friend. If you have anyone who is going to college, my second is going this fall. They will do this FAFSA thingy, and then you fill it out. And there's what is called EFC, Estimated Family Contribution. A doctor, a nurse practitioner, put forward $82,000 before we do anything. I think at some point I've forgotten, I've even decided not to be filling those things. But you know why? They ask you how much you have in real estate, how much equity you have in your house, how much do you have in stocks, how much do you have in foreign account, everything. It's called estimated family contribution. You should put up this amount before we can even help you. You know what they don't ask? They do not ask about cash value in life insurance. So if you've ever heard the term hidden millionaires, if you've ever heard it, hidden millionaires, you can keep millions there, they will never ask about it. And I'm here like, I didn't know this. So I asked my friend, I told my friend, immediate friend, like, hey, dude, see what I heard. Oh yeah, I think I heard about it when we finished residency. I'm like, boy, what is wrong with you? You heard about it and you never told me? I'm like, come on, next slide. You know, so this is personal to me. Look, I'm sure all of us have our ABCs behind our names, you know, but yeah, I do a little bit of pediatrics, okay, because I just left, you know, medical practice fully. I'm working in industry, in drug development, and, you know, embracing what Emilia has introduced me to. So we all have our names. Next slide. That's not to show anything. Then you realize that it doesn't necessarily match your present result, right? With all that I've done, with all you've done, you have to do more. You have to keep doing or nothing happens. Next slide. And yes, please. Unfortunately, most times when people are dissatisfied with their current income, what do? They put more effort into the same thing, right? The 7 on, 7 off that the hospital is supposed to do becomes 7 on, 7 on, right? Trading hours for dollars, that's it. We know our nursing wives and nursing sisters who, they say they are doing 2 jobs, 3 jobs. You know, we chase after these things. This is interesting. Doximity is the other one, right? Physician side gig. I rarely contribute. I rarely make comments. I just see those things. But go on. Talks about IV clinics, you know, surveys and stuff like that. So somebody was talking about IV clinics and surveys. And I said, I don't understand why physicians keep pushing the idea of taking medical surveys as a side gig, right? You rarely qualify for most of them. They're going to say eosinophilic esophagitis. How many do you see? People tell lies. They'll say, I see 40 because you want to qualify. What do you treat them with? How do you investigate it? And they start going from their theories. So you see, somebody's telling me doing surveys as a side gig, really? You know, okay, next slide. And someone says, oh, I just did so many. I made 1,500 last year doing surveys, no lying, just so many of them. And the other guy is like, really? So that's less than 1 day of clinic. I'll pass. Sure, but if you sit at home not doing anything, you know, so it's better than nothing, right? So it tells you people are thinking, just like we're thinking, we're interested. How else can we supplement our income? Next slide. And so if you want to make wealth, these are what you need. The raw materials are natural resources. The cocoa in Africa that becomes chocolate, right? The crude oil, the second best quality crude oil in Nigeria that is put away and brought back, unfortunately. You need raw materials. You need people, especially other people's time, which is unlimited. Our time is limited. Other people's money, creativity. You wouldn't get into the healthcare system if your IQ is not above average. At least let's give it to everyone here, right? You need a well-tested and efficient system. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything. That's all you need to create wealth. Let's go next. Slide, please. So these are the ways to generate money: a startup, platform, a franchise, or a job. 3 most important things: system. Save yourself time, energy, and money. Okay, that's a system. It's a very important. Next slide. The startups we know: Amazon, Mom's Garage, 245,000 from the mom, seed money, IPO, 56 million. That's other people's money. Other people's time. 1.5 million people work in Amazon today. The challenge is 95% of them fail. You know about the doctor who finished, and then said, oh, I'm going to start my practice. After a while, it doesn't tell you when it stops. You know about, the nurse practitioner who started something. After a while, it just fizzles out. 95% of startups fail. There are platforms, some of which you know. Maybe you've tried some of them. If you're making a profit of $5 per product, you need to sell about 1,000 to make 5,000, right? Again, it's like other people's money, other people's time. But we'll talk about a different platform. Next slide. Franchise. Wherever you are sitting, you look out your window right now, you're going to see In fact, one of them has a jingle that says, America runs on Dunkin'. I'll tell you, America runs on franchises, right? McDonald's, probably almost $1 million for you to put a label, on the door. And then before you start getting the supplies, and then of course, the smaller ones like the $3, whatever, maybe 50. So about 200,000 or more for you to even start. Other people's money again, other people's time involved. And the last one is called JOB, 9 to 5, clock in and clock out, W2, JOB, just over broke. Only your time, no OPT, no OPM, trading hours for dollars. Yep, you go to a job, the first face you see, very smiling. Sometimes they even put a banner in the city, in the town, welcome Dr. So-and-so. After a while, you start wondering when the nurse manager in the office starts putting extra patients and sending you hours more, you're like, what is happening here? Is this what I signed up? We all go through that, right? Most of us, that's the default training for a job. Go to school, do your best, make good grades. No one made better grades than the people here. That's fine, okay? Until you either get burnt out doing what you don't like and give up, or you tell yourself, man, I can't continue with this. That it's not going to work. Because at some point I told myself, if I'm going to be sitting in here, 20 patients, 23 patients for the next 15 years, I don't know if I can survive it. I have to tell myself the truth. It's different for all of us. If you want to create cash, look at this quadrant. On the left side is 95% of the population. But that's where 5% of the wealth is. They have a JOB, employees, like most of us. They have a JOB, or self-employed people. I like quoting Robert Kiyosaki. He says, people who are self-employed are people with OCD. They just want to do it their own way. It's worse for them. We will see why. Because they can't take time off. On the right side is 5% of the population. The business owners who own a system or invest into a system that is, tested. And this is 95% of wealth. Where do you want to be is the question. Next slide. So cash flow quadrant again. On the left side, 100% dependent on one person is 100% of income. Amazing. So, if you make $1 million, what you have is a high-paying job. If your salary pays you $1 million, it's a high-paying job. Wealth is defined as your ability to maintain your standard of living even after you stop working. So the person who makes $1 million is not wealthy, because if anything happens to that person, there's zero income, no free time, no income replacement. But on the right side, 1 times you plus 99, if it is what makes up 100% of your income, you can go out. You can go to Amekuku, you can go to, whatever, your, good states, you can go to Karanamuda and just go there and stay. 99% of the income will still come because there's free time, there's income replacement, and that's 5% of the population. I want to be on the right side. So this is the WFG difference. We have a traditional agency, we have our business model. Allows people to create their own empire. I'm telling you, you will build. If you see traditionally, everybody walks up towards the top, right? So there is no bigger pyramid than the healthcare system. The doctors, the nurses are the ones who do the work. The CFOs decide, they are the top. Go back a little bit, sorry. That's a pyramid, I'm telling you. There's no bigger pyramid, okay? And that's where most of us are. On the right side is where truly a team works. Together, everybody achieves more. Together, just the way Dr. Uzo is, I'm not on her team. She's not on my team. There are 3 or 4 other people here who are not on each other's team, but they are supporting you with leverage because everyone works together. They really want you to succeed. Let's go on, next. So our business model is very simple. WFG is a platform. Amazon is a platform. Amazon makes nothing. Sometimes they wrap things and call it Amazon Basics. They really produce little or nothing, right? Licensed agents, we tell people that's what we do. We educate. Or we tell, we do not show, we show, I'm sorry, take it again. We show people, financial options and direct them. We do not tell them what to do, just show you. And like I say, there are many things many of us do not know. Even as, physicians, we're highly educated in one field, many we don't know. So the platform allows us to show you third-party providers, and you just choose what you want. Next slide. So these are the many, many strategies and services: retirement, estate preservation, college funding, business strategies, insurance solutions, and all that, and many more. And these are just some of the partners listed. There are just so many of them, big names in the financial industry. I say that we are in a business where we learn to earn, and we truly learn to earn. Okay? So when Emilia talked about these different streams of income, I said to myself, what do you mean? So in WFG, we talk about personal income, agency income, expansion, bonus income, recurring. Sometimes I open my business account and I say, oh, wait, I was paid. How did I get paid? Because that's how it works. Next slide. Was that the last? I think there's something coming. So it is said that if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And that's not what we want to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this wonderful, exciting presentation. We've had many, many presentations and always talking about physicians, especially employed physicians, own their own business. This sounds like own a business in America, which opens door to the American dream. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing here. So we want to thank our presenters today. And because of time, I'm going to open it up to questions. If you have any questions, please, there are 3 ways to ask questions. You can put it on the chat. You can ask it yourself. You can unmute yourself. This is an open forum. Or you can send it to me. I'll ask for you if you're shy. So as the moderator, I get to ask the first question. The first question, so Dr. Eke, how do you qualify for this such policy? How did you get started? I mean, tell us a little bit more about this, because we've heard this before, but I don't think we take actions.
Thank you so much. That's a very good question. So the basic thing is that this is an insurance product, right? So primarily it's an insurance. And for you to qualify for insurance, you have to go through like underwriting. So you apply, and of course you have to be healthy, right? So that's why it's the earlier you get it, the better. And so basically, if you're healthy and if you're in general in good health, then you should qualify. They also do a background check, so those are some of the things that they would do. If somebody maybe has high blood pressure or diabetes or some other health problem that is well controlled, for the most part, yes, you will get qualified. So again, it's just to tell people that it's not necessarily just like an open door that anybody can get it. You have to be healthy enough to qualify. But again, we would not discourage you from applying. It's good to apply to see if you qualify. And then the other part of it, again, is depending on what your goal is, it could be a long-term strategy. For instance, if you want to use it for retirement, then it's something that you may want to do and know that it's going to take a while, versus people that want this to be like, they want to supercharge their savings from the day one. So they want to dump a lot of money in there. Then those people can have access to that cash value right away. But if you're somebody who wants to do this over time, let's say over 7 years, over 5 years, over 3 years or something, then it might take a while. So it depends on what you want to accomplish. So it's kind of there are different nuances, but the most important thing is, first of all, you have to pass the background check, and you also have to be healthy for you to qualify. And I don't know if Dr. Chendu or Emilia, if you have anything to add to that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so what you guys are presenting is essentially any physician who qualifies can open their own business, and essentially like you own your own business. You have an IEN for your business, right? And then you can take expenses and really enjoy the American dream, correct?
Yeah, basically, so this is an opportunity for you to have your own 1099 income, right? So most of us are used to W-2, and for W-2, you can't take any write-offs, any tax write-offs. So this is an opportunity for you to actually have a 1099 income that, you can build your own business to any capacity. You can do it on a part-time basis, or, however way you want to do it. It's literally at your own, comfort or convenience of what you want to accomplish.
Okay, I'm going to go to the audience. Dr. Kenechukwu Nelly has their hands off. So go ahead.
A wonderful presentation, everybody, and thank you very much for your time. Question I had is a couple of questions. One of them is you have some money in your maybe 401k or 401b, and if you wanted to transfer some of that into the IUL, how do you get to doing that? The second one is while this does look okay, there's time and some energy involved. How much time is involved in that process of either qualifying to do this, and how much time is involved in terms of being able to educate others with regards to the whole process? Those are the two immediate questions that I have right now.
Thank you for those questions. So very important. So I'll start with the second question. So in terms of time involved, so that again depends on you, right? So for instance, I'm a full-time physician. I still practice medicine full-time, and it depends on your own time and your own niche and how you want to do it. You know, there are people that do it full-time, but there are people that do it on a part-time basis. So I would say that question really is entirely up to you and how involved you want to be with it. Then in terms of moving money from your 401k to the IUL, so again, it also depends on you as a person. So you have to look at, you know, what that entails for you. So for instance, if you're not 59 and a half years old, you can't really take money out of your 401k. If you do that, then you're going to pay, you know, a tax. First of all, you're going to be taxed on it, and also you're going to pay a penalty, right, for early withdrawal. So again, but you can take a loan for your 401k if that's what you want to do. So that's another approach. If you want to take a loan that you pay back, then that's allowed. There's no tax liability for taking a loan, depending on where your 401k, who you're set up with for that. So that's a way to approach it. So I would always count, you know, again, it's good to know the consequences of anything, right? So if you're taking it before you're 59 and a half, then you're going to pay taxes and pay a penalty for that. But you can take it as a loan if that's what you want to do. And these are things we can discuss more too, if, you know.
Dr. Eke, there's a lot of questions. I want to get to all the questions, okay? So let's keep it. All right. Next person I'm going to get to is Dr. Chris Orji. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sure. Good morning, or rather good afternoon, Dr. Orji here from Dallas, Texas. Very wonderful presentation. So I got two questions, one for Dr. Eke and one for Dr. Chendu. Dr. Eke, so you talked about doing a 1035 exchange. One of the criticisms or disapprovals I get about a 1035 exchange for those who want to move money from their whole life, for instance, so an IUL, is that they get charged double commission. When and the commission is quite huge, you will agree with me. When you open your whole life, you pay a huge commission during the first year. And then when you do the 1035 exchange by year number 4, 5, 6, 10, you also get charged double commission to open the IUL. How accurate or inaccurate is this? And then Dr. Chendu, and my question to you is, so WFG, you say it's a platform. When you say a platform, is that a platform for investments in the different areas that you're talking about, or is this just a kind of educational platform where you learn more and then earn more? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Orji, for the question. So in terms of the commission you're talking about, I'm not aware of that, because I did the same thing with my policy just literally a few months ago, because I used to have a whole life policy. So what happens? So it depends on, so if you still have cash value in your old policy, right, in your whole life, all you need to do is just to send them a letter, you know, call them that you want to, you know, get, you know, exchange it for another policy, and you just do that. There is no, you're not charged any commission. And Amelia, Mrs. Fairbank, you can comment on this too, if you're, because I'm not aware that there's any commission you're charged. It's supposed to be, you know, it's not supposed to, you're not supposed to charge anything for making that exchange.
Yeah, thank you so much. Doctor, thank you for that question. No, there's no double commission being paid here. IUL, as a matter of fact, by the way, my name is Emilia Mafusabe. IUL is a cash accumulation strategy, okay? And it's not for the agent to amass wealth. It's for the client to use to accumulate cash, grow it tax deferred, withdrawn tax-free through the strategies, the two options, two ways. We don't get paid double commission for bringing money in. We don't get paid double commission for selling it out. So I don't know, maybe there's a misinformation out there. I just did a 10-5 exchange for the Dr. Uzameka, and I did not get paid for the money that was moved over from the other company.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Sorry, was all the questions answered already?
No, I think there's a second one.
He had a second question about being a platform.
Okay.
So just the way Amazon allows you to shop whatever company you want, the WFG actually does not provide, for instance, an insurance product. The WFG does not provide any annuities, right? It only allows you to reach to so many providers. That's what we mean by being a platform.
So I'm assuming that you have to pay some kind of interest to WFG then, because that's how Amazon makes money, correct?
You know, we are like the field, so by, relating to whoever the prospective, and they decide what they want, they actually know that they are getting their policies, for instance, from Transamerica, from Nationwide, from State Farm, from any of the policies, yes. Then, the WFG pays the commission to the agent.
Okay. All right.
And then I can add a little bit to it. So like when you buy something on Amazon, you buy it from a vendor on Amazon platform. You that go on that platform to buy, you don't pay Amazon any fee. So the vendors that we buy from pay Amazon a fee for finding to come and buy from them. So you see that, so we don't pay Amazon any fee. That's exactly like how we operate. So we don't charge our clients any fee. We are a financial educational platform. We educate about how to build a lifetime financial security using the insurance industry. And after we bring the awareness and education, we pair you up with the AA-rated companies like Nationwide, Transamerica, Pacific Life, all those huge household names.
Okay.
And we pick them up and they pay us.
Okay, I got it. Thank you very much. Let me take one question from the chat. Then Annie, you'll be next. For those who do not want to run a business, they want to buy the IUL. Is there a minimal monthly contribution?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, you don't have to do the business for you to get a policy. So it's both of them are not interdependent. And the minimum, so there's no minimum, it depends on what your goal is. So that's where you sit down with any of us and we discuss what you want to accomplish, and then we run the numbers. So if there's no number to put to it,
so
that makes sense.
You can use however you can afford on a monthly basis. Is there a minimum standard starting cap? Is there a yearly cap? Is all cost?
No, there's nothing like that. It depends on, again, the person's goals, and we, based on what they want to accomplish, then we, plug in the numbers and see what works best for them.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next person will be Annie. Annie is one of our financial professionals that we've been working with in the last few years. He has Annie, are you ready?
Sure, my friend. Listen, I really wanted to extend an incredible level of compliment to these two doctors, and also compliment Amelia for enabling and empowering these people to do what they're doing. Owning a business is an imperative if you're going to be very successful in America, and this is one of those platforms. What has been very impressive for me is the manner in which Uzo, forgive me for presuming on you and calling you Uzo, delivered what she delivered, because she hit on all of the imperatives. What Uchendu did also was basically to kind of hit on this as a business solution for everyone. I really want to compliment you guys. Amelia thank you for doing this with them. And this is something that can be very helpful to everyone. Something I want to touch on just to add to the discourse is the 1035 exchange that became a question, an additional question here. Usually there are compliance imperatives when it comes to exchanging, 1031 or 1035 exchanges to make sure that a client is not suffering substantial compromise on the policies if they're short-lived, because these things tend to be long-dated investment opportunities. Now, there are strategies when you properly structure, and I noticed that those are used properly structured policies. The truth is, in our industry, or in this industry, a lot of people get paid a lot of the commissions up front. Now, when you properly structure the policies to enable you to utilize the cash for many different things, the advisors or agents get paid much less. When you are structuring these things and you get paid less, you're using that to build cash value and allow other things to happen. So all I wanted to do here is just kind of add to that discourse in that context. And, Amelia was right. You're not paying twice, but what's happening is whoever it was that sold you the first policy got paid a lot. And if they got paid a little, then it's not going to cost you much to go into the new policy when you do a 1035 exchange. So that's kind of my little addition. But really, the thrust of all of this is we invite you doctors to learn about how to be healthy financially. And Uzamaka, I cannot compliment you enough. You did a terrific job. It's interesting because I was going to come on and say, and add the Warren Buffett piece to your comment, and then you threw it in there, and all the other pieces. Kudos, my dear, and we can do same thing to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you
Nathan.
so much. I appreciate your saying that. Thank you.
All right. We are a little 5 or 6 minutes over time, but we'll take all the questions. Dr. Chudi Ufondu, hands up. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Dr. Chudi, okay.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. First of all, I want to commend Dr. Zamaka for that amazing presentation, and also Dr. Chendo. Both of them really used time effectively to communicate. I'm so proud both of them are my friends. I wanted to ask about the people that might not qualify based on whatever criteria, which is individualized, but they have kids they want to sign up for the IUL. So, for example, maybe for health purposes or for health reasons, you were not able to qualify. Can you still go ahead and set it up for the family besides yourself? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fonda. Yes, absolutely, you can. Like I said, my children have policies, and some people actually use that as a strategy, right? So you set it up for your children, and then you actually fund it, and then you can use this because it's your policy, even though it's in your child's name. Your child is insured, but it's your policy. So you can still use the same thing, use the fund that you accumulate there for things that you want to accomplish. So that's actually a very good question. That's a smart way to kind of bypass that, obstacle if you're not able to qualify yourself.
May I say something? Because
Sure.
I also saw a question, a comment on the chat that talks about, so basically for healthy people, healthy is relative, okay? So it's not just about being perfect, really, if there's anything like that. So there are about 6 risk categories. The standard, there is even tobacco users, there is tobacco, lower, there is preferred plus, preferred elite. And the platform, Crump, is able, there are some people that one insurance company might decline, but we have actually Crump that goes to shop. I'm telling you, that can shop all around. The only thing is, instead of not having anything, it may actually cost a little more. It's like you can have a protection for a new car, right? What this risk is looking at is, what will it cost us as this car starts getting old? What will it cost insurance to protect this person who has these multiple comorbidity pathologies? So it's not exactly that you must be healthy for you to even get coverage. You know, in addition to what Uzo had said. You know, thank you.
There's one question that's not answered. The question was, what are the pros and the cons? With you guys have presented the pros. What are the cons? What would a physician, your fellow colleague, what kind of things are they going to? What about? Can somebody comment about the cons of? Because it is nothing is all good. There's always something, right? You have to be aware of. Like it's not all good. There's got to be something.
That's correct. Yeah. So some of the things people have looked at is when they make comparisons to other investments. First of all, this is not primarily an investment. It is life insurance. It is that it's a strategy. So I'm always careful to say this is not a product. It is a strategy that combines multiple benefits to it. So some people will look at it and say, if I put my money into the index, right, I will make more money. I will make more return. She demonstrated what happens when you put it into, for instance, the stock market. Or I could take my money and go do real estate. But you can actually generate money here and use it, take out money from it and do real estate, right? So, and when we do an illustration, it will show you an event of the market not doing well. It would still show you really what will happen, right? That if it continues to return at the floor, which is very theoretical, this is what will happen. I don't know if that helps. So sometimes it's actually when people bring their questions, then we can see whether that addresses it. And I think our emails and phone numbers are there. It would be great. People reach out. You lose nothing. You know, like I put there, the leper said, what do I lose? Let me go and find out what they're talking about. Unless you look at it one by one, you know, you can never really know whether it's for you or not. Seriously.
Well, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. I want to use the opportunity to thank you guys for educating our ANPA membership. This presentation has been brought to you by ANPA and ANPA Foundation. This will be a monthly, a quarterly webinar. All webinars are recorded and uploaded to the ANPA YouTube page at ANPA National. I would be remiss if I did not recognize our president-elect, Dr. Cliff Eke, who will close it out for us.
Yeah, Professor Stanley, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia. I'm excited to join. I look at the numbers, over 70 people at once. One time we're on this platform. So I want to thank you for this service you're providing to ANPA and ANPA Foundation. This is one of the benefits of being ANPA member. And before I continue to thank our presenters, I hope they are ANPA members, the doctors.
I checked.
And also other doctors that called in, because ANPA will have a lot of work to do. You checked, good for you. So go to ampa.org and see what we do. And I want to use the opportunity to invite all of us to Anaheim, California, June 19th to 23rd, where we have our convention. And you see what we do and you can get involved. Thanks to Dr. Uchendo, Emilia, and my sister, who doesn't know she's my sister, Dr. Eke. So hopefully we'll get to meet someday. Yes.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well,
yeah, very small word, right?
Sister from another mother, another father.
Exactly.
oh, wow.
Exactly. So this is great. I got a lot out of it. I like the Warren Buffett's quotes. One of it is, if you don't have something working for you at night or downtime, you're going to work all the time. That's very interesting.
Until you die, I guess.
But the key, yeah, the key is diversification. So they are giving us one of the tools to not just make wealth, but to maintain it, not just for us, but for our next generation, and to do something good for the community, which is why we're here, which is what ANPA does. So thank you very much, our presenters and our moderator and everyone. And we hope to see you in June, Anaheim, California, for our convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. We will be uploading the talk to the ANPA YouTube page. Okay.